live. And I guess, do you want to talk to starting out with the company and I guess like a little bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Tommy Kimmelman. I'm the head of artist relations at Nifty Gateway. Nifty Gateway is a centralized NFT platform owned by Gemini. We operate with the drop format. Typically, well, now we're releasing kind of a drop every day, pretty much. Usually 1 to 4 artists in the drops, and yeah, we've partnered with a lot of talented digital artists as well as a lot of talented musicians. So yeah, we've been growing really fast, and it's an exciting time.
How, I guess I'm really just curious, like what was your major? You went to Stanford, I guess. So I'm curious, like what your major was in Stanford and how you kind of linked up with the twins and then got started with the company.
Yeah, so I majored in communications. I it was definitely a marketing focus, and I don't know. I kind of saw myself in a marketing role or something like it once I was graduating. And the way I got introduced to Duncan and Griffin, who they were the first people from either Gemini or Nifty that I talked to. I had a family friend who worked at Gemini, which is the company that owns Nifty Gateway. And she was like, "Oh, like there's this startup that Gemini just acquired. They're looking for, someone to do business development." And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I never really saw myself in that kind of role. I guess I just hadn't really thought about it. But I started chatting with them. Like she got me in touch. Had a phone call. I think it was with Duncan first, and they kind of just explained the concept of an NFT to me. I didn't really have that much background. And then I dug into the role a little bit more and got into like a formal interview process with them. And part of that interview process was like doing a mock pitch, trying to explain to someone what an NFT was and why they should create an NFT collection. So that was, yeah, there's definitely a learning curve there at first. And honestly, for like the first 2 3 months. And yeah, like lucky to have gotten the role. And during the first 4 months before launch, I joined before the 2.0 platform that you see today was even live. Nifty Gateway was just a payment processor back then. Yeah, I was kind of just in charge of reaching out to people, artists, maybe sports teams, anyone who we thought could have an interesting NFT collection, like pitching them on the tech and trying to get them on board. And that was not easy pre-launch because you're trying to pitch someone on a platform that isn't even like a thing yet. But luckily, we had some people who had faith in us, and we were able to get the first couple drops mapped out. And yeah, the rest was kind of history.
Jason just hopped in the chat. Jason Derulo. I don't know if he's one of the mods on
Yeah,
Nifty Gateway.
the homie.
Yeah, he's good people. I've talked to him about a couple of like the drops and stuff, and yeah, very very knowledgeable person. Long term, we're gonna try and have him on once things calm down with yeah. um, yeah. So I guess I'm curious, like you know, you obviously have your start and you kind of like stumble into it, and where do you think you would be if it wasn't for Nifty Gateway? Like, do you think that you would still be in like an art place, or do you think you'd be in more marketing or digital marketing?
Probably not art, honestly.
Mm,
I like I wouldn't say I wasn't a believer in art or like the art world before coming to Nifty Gateway. It just wasn't something that I really thought about.
mm,
Um, and then, you know, it kind of just made sense once we started building out the platform. Like crypto art, it by no means was blowing up, but it was definitely starting to get a bit of traction. Like super rare, they were doing some awesome things and still are.
mm,
And then there's a few other platforms. Async launched right before us, I believe. So at first, we weren't really sure whether or not it was going to be collectibles or art, and then the art thing kind of just made sense.
mm,
So I would say I kind of just fell into the art world,
mm.
the digital art world. It didn't really, I didn't really know too much about it beforehand. I think if I wasn't at Nifty Gateway, I'd probably be doing something in marketing. Um, I don't really know where I was. I was looking a lot at tech companies and startups. I think that was, what I wanted to do. And that's why Nifty Gateway was a good fit for me. And that's kind of what drew me to it. It was a high paced startup in the tech sector.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a couple of buddies who went to Stanford, and all of them are in the tech world. Like two or three of them have startups. One of them went on to work for like he's working at Facebook right now, and he actually loves Facebook, which is contrary to what everybody says. Like they actually have like a really great culture, according to him. I mean, I'm sure everybody's mileage is going to vary with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same. There's a couple kids I went to college with who, they have really good things to say about it. And that, yeah, and I've heard stories about like Apple and Google just being amazing places to work at as well. And yeah, I really thought I was going to work in the Bay. But I was, I started applying to some jobs in New York just to branch out a little bit. And then the fit just made sense. So I need to move out there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited about like just the entire space as a whole, and so yeah, it's definitely not. I don't think anybody can say that it's the wrong space to be in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited about it. Like just seeing the growth that this space has had in the last month in
Mhm.
particular has been like insane. And if I wasn't already committed to it, I definitely am now.
So Jason asks, how does it feel that you don't have to babysit a crowd of angry children every day at 7 p.m.?
Feels good. No, we still have some hiring to do. I try to pop in when I can. I mean, things on the biz dev side and the artist relations side have been like crazy lately. Yeah, we've just been having a lot of inbound interest, like everyone's trying to get on the platform. So we definitely need to get like a community hire, something like that. I know we got Miguel starting and customer support hire, so they've been helping out in the Discord, but we clearly have a bigger need there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been exciting to see like the team grow, and yeah, I think that I, I don't know. Miguel seems to have like a pretty good handle on it, but yeah, more hands on deck can always be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think Miguel's done a great job of just like professionalizing our Discord and our social channels because I
Mm,
was doing that before for the last like year plus,
mm,
and I didn't really like I knew what I was doing. I just didn't have like the bandwidth necessarily to do these bigger initiatives that he's
mm.
done, like, making a lot more custom channels in the Discord, adding like a verified to our Discord, and we're using like Bitly's links that can be tracked on social and stuff like
Mm.
that. So yeah, it's kind of just adding a lot of professionalism to our comms and social media. So he's been super helpful.
Yeah, learning from like doing this podcast, like with like Bitly and like tracking. Like I used to work in data analytics, and so like seeing like all that kind of stuff, it's all just stuff that I never personally like went through in terms of branding and whatever. And so it's got to be super similar. Haha, woman child, which is Jenny from the blockchain. She asked, "Did you bleach your hair? And can we see?" I don't know if you want to show.
I did. It needs to be cut really bad right now. It's kind of long. That's why I have the hat on.
It looks stylish. It looks stylish.
But all right. The team made fun of me a little bit, but they're used to it now. They like it.
So we had another question from Wimps, which is, when do you look for when an artist? What do you look for when an artist contact you? And is there a certain standard when picking drops? Like how far out are things booked?
Yeah, I mean, things are booked out pretty far right now.
Mm,
We have a bunch of names on the calendar into June.
mm,
Um, and March just kicked off. So it's pretty far out in advance. That being said, like if we do have a really big opportunity come to us, which we've had several of lately, we can plug it in.
mm,
So, and then in terms of what we look for in an artist, I mean, we definitely look for innovative work, stuff that hasn't been done before, um, and stuff that really takes advantage of the creative medium. We really love seeing big names from different industries come in and not treat it just as like a new revenue stream, but treat it just like they would treat any other creative outlet. Like musicians, for example, we really like when they come in and take advantage of it to its full potential. And we're gonna have a lot of those collections coming up. And I think with that, like as the space has become more well known and respected, people are beginning to put a lot more time and effort into their collections, which is exciting.
Mm. Yeah, from talking to Justin Maller, like he's talking about all these people coming into the space, and he's like, you haven't heard of them, but I've known them for like the past like 20 years, and so I think that that like pivot as the space really comes to fruition, right? Like that's going to be insane. Where not that artists that are on the platforms are any lower in standard or anything like that, but just what he was basically kind of describing as like almost industry titans that have been around forever, and
Yeah,
for them to pivot into the space would also be really really cool.
yeah, totally. And yeah, I think it was a big moment when like people came into the space, and then it was a big moment when Justin came into the space because I think people kind of knew that Beeple was a really big name, but I don't know, Justin. Like, if you actually like do your research and look into his background, he's like extremely well connected in the digital art world and has been doing it for so long, like over 20 years. So he's totally an OG, and I was super stoked when his collection with us recently did really well. It was super well deserved, and he's got some awesome stuff planned out in the future as well.
Yeah, his was a piece that I talked about it with him when I was chatting with him, and like it just like it clicked with me. It initially looked like aquatic. I really like aquatic pieces. He was like, you do know there's nothing aquatic in that. And I was like, yeah, like I know. It's just that was my first take on it, and so yeah, it was almost a gaff on my own part. But uh, Jenny said it looks really really good. Your hair. I just wanted to call it out so that way you got the compliment. And
Thanks.
and Jason is asking, who makes decisions in terms of which artists get accepted, or is it like a group consensus kind of thing?
Um, in the early days, it was mostly me doing it, and then obviously Duncan and Griffin, I would run stuff by them too, just because they have really good decision making, and like I trust their judgment with stuff. So for a long time, it was mainly me, and we've expanded our creative team now to around 5 members. So it's grown into more of a team decision at this point. Like if we have an opportunity that comes our way and we're unsure about it, we chat about it as a team. But at the same time, there's opportunities that come up where it's pretty unanimous, and we know that you don't even need to ask someone's opinion. Like everyone's going to say yes anyway.
Mm,
Um, we don't even necessarily vote on it. We kind of just chat about it and talk through talk through it, see what they're trying to release. That's kind of a key thing. It's not just about like, oh, this person wants to release, like, should we do it or not? It's about this person wants to release. Here's when they want to release it. Here's how they want to release it, and here's what it's going to look like.
mm,
Um, which has been cool because in the early days we didn't really think of it like that. We were just like, oh, like this big name wants to release, like let's get them on. And there's so much inbound interest right now that we can really, curate it, not just in the sense of who's going to be releasing, but curate it in the sense of what they're going to be releasing and how they're going to be releasing it.
mm. So Wimps also brought up that fine artists that have solo shows in museums and such, do they have a shot, especially if they have physical drops along with it? Do you think that, I guess, this medium, like in terms of like fine artists, like do you think that it lends itself without having like the physical there in terms of like the showcasing? Just as my own point too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think fine artists from the physical art world definitely have a space here. A good example is we did something with Kenny Scharf, who's a really popular street artist turned fine artist. Really, really popular. He did a collab with Dior, and he's done a bunch of other really big things in his past. He did a drop with us, and it was super successful. He literally just did sketches of some of his traditional characters in his style, didn't try to conform to the medium, didn't try to do something digital, and it worked really well, and it had a great drop, and the pieces are trading up significantly in value. So that went well. And then yeah, I think we are going to see a lot more physical NFT exhibitions post COVID. I think there's like totally a market for that, and it's not a if, it's a when type situation. I've been talking to some people, and they're planning that out a little bit.
Mm,
Can't give any spoilers, but there's gonna be some cool stuff in the future.
mm. I think that it would be a like definitely like a wise move my buddy works for MetaMask, and then now he works for Coinbase, and so he was talking about how it's probably like a joint custody thing within the website in terms of like you guys are kind of like the meta controller of the wallet, and then kind of have like access in terms of almost like a sub wallet thing. But I think it would be like a really cool thing if you guys had like a like a borrowing standpoint, right? Like where you could, if say Christie's or Sotheby's comes out and they go, "Hey, can we rent your piece for an exhibit?" And then within Nifty Gateway, you kind of like broker the deal, saying, "Okay, here's the offer on the table, whatever it is," and then we're gonna lend it out to them for like a week. At the end of the week, you do it, and it's like built into a smart contract. That would be like a really awesome brokering kind of thing that you guys could handle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that seems like something that might be a little bit further out,
Mhm.
but there's definitely a use case for it. And I think, yeah, I think we kind of need more fine art establishments to really get invested here and start, doing more stuff in the space. Obviously, Christie's is doing the people thing, which is great,
Mhm.
super exciting. And I know Sotheby's hasn't like formally done anything yet, but they've kind of been dabbling and getting their feet wet.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think as more auction houses and like galleries start to get involved, maybe someone is going to take that step.
Mhm. Do you think that Sotheby's will end up doing an auction on the pack piece?
Um, I don't know. I think they'll do something in the space. I they have to. They've been looking at it for a while now. Um, and seeing the success over the last 3 weeks, I think they're definitely going to do something at some point. I just don't know what it's going to be yet.
Mhm. Jason said, "Tommy, the king of leaks, not giving away any spoilers. What world am I in?"
Yeah, I've made that mistake one too many times in our Discord. Never again.
Understandable. Understandable. At what point in the, I guess, growth of the company are you having like a mental holy shit moment of, wow, this person sold XYZ, or this person is going to be on the platform kind of thing? Like who is that like flipping point of holy crap, I got something?
I think with sales, it was the Mad Dog Jones drop, which I think opened a lot of eyes. I mean, obviously it was a really creative mechanism and he like earned it. But coming in and making over $4 million in a drop is unprecedented. We'd
Mm,
only done it um, on the primary market. Actually, we hadn't done it before. Beeple's was around 3.5 million
mm,
on primary, and this set the record. So that was cool. And in terms of bringing big names onto the platform, Grimes, who we dropped with on Sunday, that was a big one. Kind of a surreal moment, honestly. And then seeing the drop do like 6 million in sales, that was surreal as well. And it just opened so many doors. And like you'll see what I mean over the next few weeks. Like we have the Steve Aoki thing on Sunday,
yeah.
and like I can't I can't give too much insight into the rest of March, but all I can say is March is going to be by far and away the craziest month in Nifty Gateway history, like by far and away. So
Mm.
it's exciting.
That's really crazy to hear because Aoki is such a big name artist. I don't know. Have you ever seen? There's like a mini documentary on like a day in the life with him, and like how he just hustles super super hard. Like goes into his like family story, him getting onto like planes, doing a concert, getting back on a plane, going back to sleep. Like it's just pandemonium. So he's huge. I think you froze for a second. There you go. Yeah, you're back.
You got me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Am I good?
Yep. Sorry, did you hear me?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I mean, honestly, we've been working with him and his team for a really, really long time now.
Mm,
I think we started chatting with them. It must have been like November or
mm,
something. So they've been aware of this space for a long time, which is cool to see because in the last 2 weeks, a lot of people I think saw like the Mad Dog Jones buzz and started flocking over. Then they saw the Grimes buzz, and then that's when they really started flocking over. But Steve and his team, they saw this a really long time ago and
mm,
were more willing to take a chance on it, which was cool. And I think it's going to pay off. Like he's got the solo slot on Sunday. Those are going to become a lot more scarce
mm.
over the next few months. Like we've had so much content coming in that we can't really support that many solo days. So yeah, I think it's really going to pay off, and he's going to have a killer drop. I mean, the assets are insane. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to that. I'm a big Aoki fan, and I if I could ask him like a question, I just want to like know if he's gonna make like a digital NFT of caking somebody because I feel like that's like what
yeah,
he's like most known
got to.
for.
He's got to at some point.
I'm really curious, like just from like a more I guess personal standpoint, and obviously no takeaways from other artists, but like who are your like top three favorite artists just from like an art style or even pieces within that?
Um, like in the NFT space or just in general?
I guess both.
Um, in the NFT space, someone who's really been catching my eye is Rhymes Like Dimes. His drop tonight was insane. Like three of the coolest NFTs I've ever seen. So I was really, and it did really well. So that was cool. He's become one of my favorite artists in the space. Mad Dog Jones, obviously, he's got some really awesome stuff.
Mm,
And yeah, there's so many more artists that I want to list, but due to given the time, I can't go through all of them. Blake Catherine's another one. I love her stuff. It's insanely talented, and she had a big drop with us lately. And then outside the space, well, technically he's now in the space. Matt Gondek.
mm,
I really like the stuff that he does in the fine art and physical art setting.
mm,
So it was pretty surreal bringing him into the space, and then doing two drops with him now.
mm,
Um, and then Cause, I also really like his stuff as
mm.
well. That's like the classic answer, but yeah, he's got some cool stuff. I own one Cause piece, and I'm like in love with it.
Nice. Yeah, I had they're at like another place, but I have the like space pieces, and the space pieces are like incredible. The gold is like the sheen on it is impeccable. It's have you gone to the Brooklyn exhibit? Just as casual.
No, I haven't. That's the one that's like going on right now,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. I would if I was in the city, but I'm out in Boulder right now, Colorado. I'll be back in the city in June though, once we start getting a little bit closer to the offices opening up.
Nice. Yeah. I guess how do you think the COVID has affected the space on that topic? Like, do you think that the being stuck at home and everything like that has really helped it?
Yeah, and honestly, like it makes me anytime I get asked this question, I think about this quote that I heard like 3 months into COVID, basically saying like COVID is about to advance the digital and the technology age by 5 years. And like
Mm,
that's exactly how I feel about this. I feel like we would have gotten there, but to be honest, the acceleration the space has seen in the last few months and will continue to see over the next few months, a lot of it has been driven not just by people being stuck in their homes, but you know, people needing a new medium to generate revenue, particularly in music, because right now nobody's touring,
mm,
nobody's really dropping albums because not a great time to drop an album if you can't tour it.
mm.
So I think it's accelerated it a lot. I don't know how quickly we could have gotten to the point that we're at now without the pandemic. It sounds weird, and like obviously, the pandemic's been awful in so many ways, but it has accelerated the digital age, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I think as far as like the artists go, I think it would be like a cool way to maybe generate revenue, but like you almost pre-sell concert tickets, right? Like I mean, I think that the majority you probably make more on concession stands at a concert, through selling beer and drinks and food and everything like that than you do on the actual ticket. Especially, I mean, at least in New York City, right? Like MSG, I went to a Drake concert. It was I had to go to the Drake concert. Whatever. But like it was like $150 for a ticket, and it was like decent seating, no big deal. But then like you go to get a beer, and it's like $12 a beer, right? So like if you're hanging out with buddies, whatever, like I didn't outspend the 150, but it's still just one of those things where if you pre-sell tickets as a part of like an NFT drop, you can drop music, have almost like a golden ticket kind of thing of a free redeemable ticket to future concerts, and then send them like Kings of Leon is doing it tomorrow. They're
Yeah.
doing, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be cool. And what I've loved seeing lately is artists dropping unreleased music.
Mhm.
Um, as NFTs. I think that's super cool. Like Grammatic did it with us a few weeks ago. We have some really cool and big unreleased stuff coming up in within within the next 2 weeks. Just haven't announced it yet.
Mm.
But that's always cool to see, and it really is making the most of the medium, because if you're putting all of this time and effort into making what would be a single and then just releasing it as an NFT, and not even necessarily putting it out on Spotify, like that's really cool, and I think that's a huge moment for the space.
Yeah, I mean, you saw. I'm assuming you saw today. Tidal got sold to Square, and that seems to be a step in that musical direction of NFTs, or just better paying revenue streams for artists in terms of that, right? Because everybody talks about getting like pennies on the dollar for Spotify, which is nuts.
Yeah, it really is. And like, I think from what I found, the main source of revenue for these musicians is touring. And that's gone. We still don't know when that's going to come back. So the timing really seems perfect for a lot of them to come into the space. And honestly, I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people saying, how quickly can you get me in? Like, one, I think they want to be the first, but two, it's like, there's no revenue right now, and we're generating a lot of it. So it kind of just makes sense for them.
Has there been any artists that like hop in or have wanted to hop into the space that you were kind of like surprised about, or that just kind of came out of the blue?
Yeah, I think with honestly, some of the earlier musicians that we released with, I was a little bit surprised about, because they were just like early to the game. Who's a good example? The Knox, like that was random. Like they hit, like I'm a pretty big fan of their music. Like I've seen them live before, and this was before we were even really blowing up when they reached out to us. Like we were doing well as a platform. But they just randomly hit us up and they're like, hey, like we want to release an NFT. And that was cool for me because it was a musician who had no exposure to the space. Like obviously it's different with Blau. It's different with Grammatic because those guys had been in the space before. Like Blau for years. Dead Mouse is another good example of that. Like when he came in, that was a little surprising to me. It was, he did his first thing on Super Rare and it was unexpected. He was a really massive name. So I didn't see that happening anytime soon. And then like, it just, it did, he popped in. So
Another great question from Jason, which at some point I feel like I just got to have him on as like a co-host, but he asks, what industry do you think can thrive in NFTs, but hasn't really like entered or breached yet?
Video games. That's a huge one. We've done something with OG esports before, but I don't think that that's really what I mean. Like what I mean when I say that is taking in-game items and minting them onto the blockchain so you could truly own them. Like there's so much potential there. And I get it. Like that tech is very, very hard to develop. So I don't know, like maybe mainstream game developers are working on it. But I think there's such a use case there, and it would make in-game items so much more valuable than they currently are, because you have kids spending thousands of dollars in Fortnite to get like skins and stuff like that. And then once Fortnite loses relevance, or if it ever shuts down in I don't know how many years, like those are gone. No way to get them back. There's no use case for them. But if they had been stored as NFTs, then they're like historic relics that will live forever on the blockchain,
Yeah. I mean, I think it would also be pretty cool, just as like a sidebar, where they're really known for like skins or like a melee weapon kind of thing, and it would be cool if you have like cross-platform gaming compatibility, where like, okay, like I know that there's a character that has like a lollipop, whacking stick, right? And so like you could use that on something else where, I don't know, another game that I played was like Halo, right? So like Halo has like that big hammer, and so instead of hitting somebody with like a hammer, you just have this bright pink lollipop that you're whacking people with. I think that'd be pretty hilarious in terms of just application.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too. Like since NFTs can be transmitted between platforms, like you could have an in-game item NFT that exists in one game and like literally withdraw it and deposit it into another, which is so cool. Like that just, it doesn't really make sense in the current state of how in-game items work. So yeah, it's exciting, and I genuinely think, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I genuinely think like within the next 10 years, maybe we're going to start seeing massive, massive in-game economies built with NFTs. And like you're kind of seeing that, like Axie Infinity is a great example. But I mean like even bigger scale than that, like a game like Fortnite or something huge, building like billion-dollar economies within, within these virtual worlds. So I'm really excited about it. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I think it's inevitable.
Mhm. Now, obviously, not really like the other art platforms, but like what other kinds of like NFTs have you, bought into or like played around with? Because I've seen like Sandbox and stuff like that, and so talking about the transferable properties, right? Like owning property is also going to be a thing digitally in moving forward.
Yeah, I haven't really done much, honestly. Like my typically just because all my focus is on Nifty Gateway,
Mm,
but I've looked at other projects before. I've looked at I was really, you know, I thought hash masks was really cool when that came around. I never bought one. And then CryptoPunks, I was really close to buying one back when they were like being sold for $5,000. Didn't
mm,
do it. Kind of mad at myself. Um, so those were two of the big ones. And then yeah, like I haven't actually bought any artwork from other crypto art platforms.
mm.
Not because we're competitors or anything like that, just because I just haven't really got around to doing it. But I still browse them a lot of the time. And I think some of the work on Super Rare is really amazing. And obviously a lot of the artists that I work with are releasing stuff there.
Mm.
And Maker's Place too. There's some cool stuff listed there as well.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, like the there's really no need to like drag anybody else down, and it's really just like you have a similar but different product because of XYZ, and you have a similar but different product in terms of what you're actually releasing, and so the competition is really unnecessary. And at this point
Yeah.
in time, all hype is good hype, right? Like if
Yeah.
somebody sells something for crazy on that, great. If they're on here, better. But like yeah, the space is still so new that even Christie's, right? Like my I've been talking about this nonstop, right? And then obviously like talking with you guys, and so like I I convinced four of my friends to buy 22 total pieces of the Trevor Jones piece. I didn't tell them to buy Trevor Jones piece. I didn't tell them to buy 22. They just were like, "Well, you seem really sure about this," and I was like, "How many did you buy?"
Well, have you seen the secondary market activity on them today?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, they're going crazy.
yeah,
So it was smart. Yeah, one just sold for 1,500 30 seconds ago.
nice, nice.
Good investment.
Well, Trevor Jones had came out and said that that's going to be his only open piece on Twitter. I'm a little bit glued to my seat at this point in terms of all things internet at the whatever, spending way too much time on the screen. But it's yeah, that tweet about it being the only open one, and then I mean, who knows? People might be preemptively sitting there. Okay, Bitcoin might hit 77K soon, right? So like you have the resurgence of Bitcoin, and yeah, I mean, I think and we'll get into this, but I think his drop mechanic in terms of the two different triggers of okay, at this time we'll do the release of the Conor McGregor piece and the NFT, and then at 77, I thought it was supposed to be a random price, but then he came out with like the actual,
Yeah, it was at first, or we just hadn't decided yet. And the main reason for that is because he was typing up all the store descriptions, the bio, and everything like that,
hmm,
and we're like, we have no clue what Bitcoin's going to do in the next 2 weeks.
hmm,
So if we guess now, the price may have already hit. It may have already hit it at that point. So we kind of just waited. I
hmm,
deployed the collection without like with the random price or whatever, and
hmm,
then like the day before the drop we decided on, or well, he decided on that 77,000 price, which obviously makes sense,
hmm. Yeah, I guess to that extent, like what drop mechanics have been your favorite, and then I guess looking forward without spoiling, like what kind of drop mechanics like have you imagined yourself that you would want to like actually implement?
um I think one of my favorite drop mechanics, which didn't happen on our platform, I believe it was on OpenSea, was something that Too Much Lag did, where he basically, I don't know how he even did it. He basically like encoded a Bitcoin into one of his pieces where if you burn it, you would then have access to the Bitcoin.
Mm.
Or it was something like that. Really cool mechanism. I thought it was intriguing, and I'd never seen anyone do something like that before. Another one I really loved was the last drop that Pac did with us, where he had the same exact image and the same IPFS hash for each NFT in the collection. What was distinguishing them in the metadata was the title of each piece. I thought that was really cool. And it was kind of a way to play with value, not based on the visual aesthetic of the piece, but like how many were available or how was it being released? Because he had some as a silent auction, some as, some as an open edition. He did one as like a $1 one. So yeah, that was really cool, and it was successful, and those pieces are going crazy on the secondary market now.
Mm.
Um, and then in the future, I definitely want to see more generative pieces, that like pieces that age over time. Um, I had an artist chat with me about that idea, and it sounds really cool. Where basically like, over the next however many years it changes, and not just like switching to like day mode and night mode, but like literally having thousands of images into the smart contract and having this change process exist over like thousands of years.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's almost like the Beeple piece that was triggered based on the election, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, similar. That was just like a one-time change
Mm.
based on one event, which is cool. But I'd love to see like 1,000 time changes,
Mm.
like every year or something crazy like that. And I don't know if that's actually been done before. I mean, I know that they do some really cool stuff over at Async with this, so I actually have no idea if they have or have not done that yet.
Mm.
Um, but I do want to see it, whether or not it has happened yet.
So I've seen some of your like tweets where it's like people were doubting it and stuff to that extent. And so like, have you had, and I guess we don't have to really get into like names, but like, have you had people where they went from being like, no, like I'm good to, hey, please, can I get on like the platform kind of thing?
More than I can count. Yeah, obviously not going to get into names, but
Mm.
that does happen frequently.
Mm.
And I don't like have any ill will
Mm.
to like when that happens or anything. It's just kind of funny, and I get like a little kick out of it
Mm.
uh, every time that it happens. And the funniest part is like no one ever says, "Oh, like I'm sorry, this was a great opportunity. Like I didn't take a chance." It's always like, "Oh, like this went to my spam," or like I must have missed this.
Mm.
So yeah, I thought that was funny.
So I guess for you personally, like, are you what's the difference in terms of like incoming I don't know, clients, partners, artists, right? Is it, 50-50, 60-40? Like how many people are coming to you and how many people are like the talent team really like personally curating?
I'd say at this point it's pretty much 100% of the people coming to us, which has kind of been the case for the last 2 or so months.
Mm.
In the early days, it was 100% the other way. Obviously, like we weren't even a platform yet, and it's kind of slowly tilted. And I think that kind of just goes hand in hand with us being so heavily curated. Like, it's not easy to get on the platform, Like
Mm.
in the early days, okay, it wasn't that hard, but the difficulty meter has just been going up and up. Not even necessarily because we don't want to work with certain people, but because like we don't have many drop slots remaining, so there's nowhere to put people. Um, and it's kind of added to our value, I guess, in terms of being heavily curated in that sense, which is cool, but it's not even necessarily for the reasons you may think.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's something that like it seemed to come across a lot more where it's just the economics of scale and limited days in the week and limited income to purchase things like all those different things. You can't have 30 artists drop.
Yeah.
Do you think that like with the pack schedule, like I think that if this continues, which I obviously think that it is going to continue, there's going to come a point where it's like, hey, we have say Sundays are like the golden ticket slot. Sundays are going to get booked out for 100 weeks, 200 weeks, whatever it is, and it's going to come down to a point where like people are going to be taking other slots, and that's all going to backlog. At what point do you think that there's like and I guess, is this at all a thought process of having a more open platform that's, like a sub platform, right? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Nifty Entranceway, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've thought about it honestly, and like we've honestly gone back and forth so many times about whether we want to give artists the ability to who have already released with us to continue releasing on the platform separate from the drops.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a pretty big tech lift, and like we're kind of focused more on building out the current product.
Mhm.
Um, and with that, I don't think we're ever going to book like a crazy amount of time into the future, just for the main reason being like whenever we have a drop, like we want to reschedule those people, and like work with them again, especially if they had a really successful collection. And we don't want to be like, hey, we'll book the next one a year out.
Mhm.
That's not fun for anyone. So
Mhm.
we're trying to keep it to like the 3 month window, like quarterly releases for all the people that we work with.
Mhm.
So the only way to really expand the amount of content that we're bringing on is not like spacing it out weeks and weeks and months in advance, but more just adding more names to the current drops or like doing more drops per week. So that's kind of where we're at now. And like, it's definitely been taxing on our bandwidth, but we got a lot of new hires starting. So we're super excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's necessary, right? it it's exciting times, right? Like, it's good problems to have. It's the barometer of good, you know, good success, right? That you're running out of bandwidth, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And like we brought on like, well, from Gemini, we brought on 5 engineers today
Mm.
exclusively to work on scaling and like getting us to a point where we can be having 100,000 people on the site or like even 500,000 people on the site. Um, Tonight we had like around 6,000, ran really smoothly and everything was great. But with some of the people that we're going to be releasing with, we're going to need to support a lot more than 6,000 users. So
So another great question, I guess, from Jason is, can you walk us through the process for an artist in terms of application to drop day on a high level?
yeah, I mean, typically the flow hasn't even been the applications lately. We almost like can't even check those because here, let me pull up the emails. We've had over 1,000 emails in like the last 4 days, pretty much. So those are difficult to go through. But like if someone does email us or like we get a cold reach out or something like that, and it seems intriguing, the first thing we do is schedule a call with them, scope out exactly what they would want to be releasing, which is why it's really helpful when people come to us with a plan already. So we scope out what they want to release, when they would want to release it. Typically, they want to release it a lot sooner than we have the ability to.
Mm.
And, if all checks out and like it seems interesting and we want to do it, then the next step would be getting them on the calendar and aiming for that date, getting them to submit their stuff like a week in advance so we have time to structure the collection pages and whatnot. Um, and yeah, right now, I mean, we've got names mapped out into June. But that being said, if a big opportunity comes up, like we'll make it work.
Mm.
We'll fit it in. Maybe not within the next 2 weeks or anything, but like we'll fit it in probably within a month and a half.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah, I think, again, like I said, they're all good problems to have, and it's exciting to see the growth. Do you, I guess, and it's hard to tiptoe the line of like what you can and can't say, and so I never know if a question is great, but for the company and stuff, like, what things can you talk about in terms of like things that you want to implement more, or changes or updates to the site, like what's in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I think scaling, like I said, that's definitely a big one. Just supporting more users. I think perfecting our drop format, which we made really big progress to. We basically implemented a feature that only allows you to have one card
Mm.
per account. So a lot of these botting problems entering the drawing was because they took a card and made thousands of accounts,
Mm.
and that effectively solved that problem. So that was huge, and like that was big ups to the dev team for making it happen. They
Mm.
worked like tirelessly on it for the last few days. Um, Other stuff. We have the site redesign, which we've publicly talked about, so it's totally fair game to chat about here. Which basically we got MetaLab to do a full redesign of our UI, making it a lot cleaner, more professional looking, and that's just one side of it. It's pretty easy for them to do like a UI mockup. Then implementing everything is a lot more difficult. So we don't really have a timeline on it or a defined one, but we're definitely working on it. And we want to get it out there sooner rather than later, because with all this attention on the platform, having a really beautiful and well thought out UI is key.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have friends who work in UI, and it's absolute insanity. Great,
Yeah.
great career path for people. Like I had a friend, his fiance now. She went from graduating and then not being able to get a job in her field. She did that, and now she works for Chase, and she's absolutely killing it. So just as like a, I don't know, soft segue.
Yeah.
I guess so. In terms of talking about like the space and stuff like that, you hear a lot of people talking about similar things to crypto, right? Like a lot of just analogies that tie it similar, like one to another. How early do you feel? Let's say how early in Bitcoin price do you feel like you are right now in NFTs?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know. It makes me think a lot of the 2017 run, but without the crash. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Because like we have all these huge mainstream people coming into the space that I feel like we're probably at maybe like 10,000 before that 2017 run.
mm,
Yeah, or maybe I don't know, maybe 10,000 before this run that we recently had that's been a lot more sustained.
mm,
Um, just because like we've had a lot of big moments. When Bitcoin was at $10,000, that's still a huge like increase from when it first started.
mm,
But it's not done yet.
mm.
Like it wasn't going to end at 10,000. It wasn't really going to go back down. So I feel like that's where we're at right now, where we've made all of this progress. We've positioned ourselves well for growth. We have a lot of eyes on us right now, and now we just got to execute, make the
Mm.
next month successful, and then I think NFTs are really going to be mainstream, more mainstream than they already are, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think from seeing, like, I was in and I got burned in 2017, and so like I rode the whole way up and I rode the whole way back down, and I just kind of strapped in and I'm still sitting, and so no big deal. But it's it seems like this run in terms of crypto, and then in terms of this, like there's so much more framework being laid out, right? Like there's so much more infrastructure in terms of crypto, and we can kind of just leave that as it is. I know off the top of my head that, like, my buddy has been working like nonstop. I can't get into any of the numbers because I don't really know him, but like he worked I think 11 days straight, and like that's insanity. Just 10-hour days, and so like I know for a fact Coinbase is going nuts in terms of like NFTs. Like this just feels like with Aoki coming into the space, Christie's coming into the space. I mean Trevor Jones hype, then McGregor on a piece, like all those different things, and then like we were talking about the groundwork that's going to get laid in terms of like video games. Like, what else do you think can happen outside of just like hype people, right? Like really well known people hopping into the space that further establishes this groundwork.
I think it's going to completely revolutionize the music industry, in terms of you know providing a way for musicians to create music that can literally be collected and like owned in a token format, as well as album releases or single releases being tokenized as NFTs. I think there's major potential there, and like with a lot of the conversations I've been having with people, it sounds like the industry is thinking the exact same way. So it's exciting. Like it reminds me of this article that was put out about Rafiq Anadol, basically saying that every work that he creates from here on out is going to be tokenized as an NFT.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to be that long before you have a musician in the exact same boat. Any single they put out, any album they put out, tokenized as an NFT. So I think it's really going to revolutionize the space. And then like you have things like ticketing in the music space, like our tickets going to be, sold as NFTs. So yeah, there's just so much potential there. And like, I'm really excited about it. So the next 2 months especially, I promise you, are going to be massive for the music industry and NFTs.
Mhm. Have has Nifty also, and again, I don't know if this is taboo, but have you guys also worked with anybody in terms of like the physical setups for picture frames and stuff like that?
Yeah, you mean like the ways to display your artwork? Yeah,
Yeah.
so we work really closely with Infinite Objects.
Mm.
They're actually like the pretty much the exclusive provider for any display solutions that we do. We've never directly worked with any other company. We've directly worked with them, and they're great.
Mm.
Um, Really awesome company, and they're doing some amazing stuff. They powered the Greg Mike release that we did recently with the Mad Cans.
Mm.
They're going to be powering the Steve Aoki drop on Sunday, the auction piece, the one of one, well, actually, I can't go into the format. I just
Okay.
realized we haven't released that yet. There is gonna be an auction piece that has an infinite objects, and there's gonna be some additions that also have infinite objects as well. But yeah, they're great, and I own two of the screens. I got my one from the Beeple drop, and then I just own one separately, and they're really high quality and convenient. They're not massive, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be massive.
Yeah. How, I guess twofold question. How do you decide which pieces you are going to actually collect? I think that I had seen you talking in Discord about how you can't actually resell pieces, so you're a collector long term. And then like secondary, how much do you value a take home aspect to a piece, like a physical?
Um, I, I love the physical aspect to it, and what really got me hooked on it was the Beeple,
Mm.
and the Twisted Vacancy piece that I own the NFT to. I also got an infinite object screen. And they sit like right by my TV. You can like kind of see them in the background. They're super cool, and like so I love the take home aspect of it, and it's one of the reasons why I grabbed one of the Greg mics on the secondary market. And then yeah, like I get to work with a lot of these artists and these brands and these musicians. So the people who are really easy and fun to work with, and like um, I can tell if they put a lot of time and effort into a drop. Those are kind of the people that I want to grab pieces from, because I know they're thinking about this space the right way.
Mm.
And then obviously the fact that I can't resell kind of makes things a lot more fair.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like a fairness to it. I think there's also like an attachment and a meaningfulness aspect to it because of that fact too, right? Like it's
yeah.
not a quick flip. It's not it hits this price and you sell it. Like it's none of that. It's literally just these are things here to stay.
Yeah, exactly. And it served me well too, because in the early days, like we didn't have that policy, and I'll admit it, I had some bad resales. I'm like,
Mm.
what was I thinking? But at the same time, I did hold a lot of pieces. Like I have my Beeple, the Into the Ether Open Edition. I have one of the Thought as a System from Mad Dog Jones. So I've been watching the charts on that one over the last few months. It's been insane. And then yeah, I have some early pieces like from the SSX Blau first drop, Pox first drop with us.
Mm.
Those are kind of just perks from working at Nifty.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah, this is above my head, which is a terrible. It's way too far away. But that's actually like a Boss Logic print that he had done before he did his drop on Nifty Gateway, and so like I have him on Instagram, and then he talked about like doing a drop for it, and so I like ordered it. It actually just came like 2 3 days ago, and so that's like the TMNT piece that he has. I'm definitely half and half, right? Like I really enjoy having like the physicals, but like the digital, like I totally understand it. But there's just something to being able to like have that piece on the wall and like the conversational aspect, and so I'm excited for the infinite objects, and then well, hopefully if some come my way, and a little bit. I've seen people making like electric ones where it has like the cord hanging down, and they're like full, not full size, but like a 18 and a half by 11 or a much bigger piece, and so like I'm excited for those too because it'd be cool to be able to flick through images and see where that kind of space goes as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool. And I think there's a lot of innovations to be made there. And there's a lot of companies really thinking about it the right way. And I think they go hand in hand with NFTs. Like obviously Infinite Objects is a great use case. their screens are just perfect for it because they're cheap. You know, I got mine for like just over $100. That's not unreasonable at all. And their only use is to like display the artwork. Like you just plug it in and you're good to go.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would be cool to integrate something in the future where you could just get like the QR code and the edition number and stuff written onto it, onto the screen of the NFT, like what was done with the Beeple. But I think they'll definitely start getting into that a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, I think with like the advent, I'm, whatever. I like not the most adept in terms of the technology, but I feel like it'd be a really cool thing if you were like, you know what, I want to wake up and I want it to be, vaporwave, and so like, you hit the button on your phone and everything goes, all the lights go pink or blue, and then you have a bunch of like Mad Dog Jones pieces up, and like, all your art changes. You could do that. You could have pack pieces, like whatever. You could change the whole mood lighting of the room. Like I think it would really, that's such like a cool way. The same as, I don't know if you had people in college, swap out a light bulb that had like, Bluetooth, right? Like this is like the same thing, but that next level.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool because like yeah, honestly, there's not like a perfect way to route physical items back to NFTs, but like you can get pretty close. And I think the Beeple drop did a really great job of that because it wasn't just an infinite object screen. You can't go on the site and recreate it. Like it's got the QR code on the back. It's got like a custom backplate. It's signed by him, edition number written. Like that's really what I love to see. And that's one of the reasons why I bought the Greg Mike one too, because I knew that it was going to be the exact same design as that, where it's got like the edition number and the signature and like customization so that you can't really fake it, and like with the QR code, it still can be routed back to, to the NFT.
Mhm. Yeah. And now that's more of like a briefcase though, right? Because of the can aspect, like it's like a two in one kind of, right?
What do you mean?
For the Greg Mike piece, that was the cans.
Yeah.
So that, does that come in like a briefcase? It seemed like at least when I looked pretty quickly, it seemed like it comes in like a briefcase where the can is there, and then
Yeah. Yeah. The packaging is like, it's really cool packaging actually. It comes with like a crystal, um, which is super interesting. And then it also has the screen and yeah, the custom, like the full custom packaging as well.
mhm.
Yeah, super cool stuff. I don't know. I mean, his work is fascinating and unique. It really fits the digital medium well.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely liked his pieces. So we did an hour. I like to close off with two questions that I've been having fun with. One of which is, was there any questions that you, in my shoes, would have asked yourself?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. Shit, had not thought of that. Hmm. I mean, I probably would have asked me like, who's the biggest name that you can give me on the calendar. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to answer though, but hey,
Mm,
can't hurt to shoot your shot.
yeah, I try to respect it. And
I
then,
appreciate.
yeah. So secondary is, what do you think your purpose is in life?
Um, it's a good question. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to tell you like a year ago, but now it's making NFTs mainstream and getting them in the hands of people all over the world and revolutionizing the art and music industries in however big or little way that I can contribute. So it's already been exciting doing or like accomplishing what we have accomplished, and I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a rocket ship at this point.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that's all I got. I appreciate the time. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a great chat.
Yeah, maybe like 6 months to a year, we'll try and run it back and see, the artists that were from this March, and
Yeah, yeah, for
try
sure.
it.
Oh, that'll be a fun one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got to do it.
All right, for sure, for sure. Thank you. I really appreciate the time, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
See ya.
Talk soon.
Peace.